Hi everyone, I welcome you all to today's webinar. This is Ronak Dholakia and I'm from Great Learning. We are waiting for a few more participants to join in, so we'll wait for a couple of minutes more before we go ahead. In the meanwhile, I just wanted to let you know some ground rules that given that we have a large group of participants who are going to join in live through LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. This is why we have kept the interactivity one way. So those of you who have any questions, want to know more about what is being covered in the session today, please put in your comments. Please put your questions in the comments, and I will be picking those questions and posing it to our guest today. So I hope you all can hear me well. So if you can just type in your comments saying if you can hear me well, you can see me well. That will be good confirmation for me to go ahead. All right. Thanks for confirming. I think a lot of you have already confirmed that you can hear me well, you can see me well. So let's get started. Um, Now, before we start the session, I just want to let you know that today our guest is Mr. Srinidhi Samarao. He's head of innovation at the Math Company. And he will be talking to you all, spending time with our audience and talking about the future of artificial intelligence, what trends we are seeing in the industry, how they are helping multiple Fortune 500 companies become data driven and AI driven to get that customer advantage. Now, before we start, let me quickly introduce Mr. Srini. So, Mr. Srini helps Fortune 500 companies take better decisions using data science, artificial intelligence, behavioral economics, design thinking, game theory, systems thinking, and many other tools. His area of interest and career focus is the art and science of decision making, why people and organizations take decisions they take, and how they help them to do a better job of it. In 20 plus years of his consulting life, working across industries, functions, and geographies, he has been very passionate about helping companies take data driven decisions. And at present, he is working as head of innovation at the Math Company. So I welcome Srini, and I'm very thankful for him to take out time and spend time with our audience.
Thanks, Ronak. Absolute pleasure to be here.
All right. So, Srini, given that you have been, a veteran in this area of helping companies take data-driven decisions, can you talk about what is it that you are seeing right now? What are the trends right now? How companies are taking decisions? Any insights around what is it that you see is happening and that fascinates you? So, if you can start the session with that, that will be a great way to get into the session.
Absolutely, that's a great question, Raunak. If you go back by about say 8 years or say 10 years or so, all right. So a lot of companies were just doing a few analytics or AI projects in silos, right? And just a few of them would actually do anything that is real in terms of actually getting the ROI and actually making profit or revenue for the organization and so on and so forth, right? And most of the analytics was good to have analytics, all right. But then about 2010 to 2012 time frame, all right, and up to 2015, what happened was a lot of companies, especially the West Coast and the technology companies, started driving analytics very seriously. So it came to a point where somebody who is pursuing analytical way of doing things, actually has the competitive advantage as compared to anybody else, right? So doing analytics gives you competitive advantage. That was like the realm of things, right? But fast forward to 2018, 2019, and now in 2020, what's happening? is that pretty much every organization across major functions have realized that my competitors are doing analytics and I had to do algorithm or AI driven way of taking decisions, right? There is no way I can do without it. So unless I pursue analytics, I'm going to be dead, sooner or later, probably sooner than later, right? So having analytics is no more a competitive advantage, but it's a survival kit. Right? So where the world is moving to today is now that everybody, right, from large size to mid size to small sized organizations are actually having analytics as the way of taking decisions. Now, actually, just doing analytics is no more the differentiator. The differentiator really comes in, okay, can I choose the right problem statement, right? And can I look for things, can I differentiate between use cases that are like, that I had to do anyway because everybody else is doing so just to survive, versus what are those use cases that I can do that actually provide me a differentiator in the competitive landscape, given what my business strategy is. So I think the use cases are getting into two major, polarized kind of use cases, right? Just an example, so for example, every company today, right, uses HR analytics to figure out who is going to churn and who is going to stay back, right? Now, unless you do it, you'll not be able to do proper talent management, right? So that will not be a differentiator use case anymore. You have to do it in order to do basic talent management, right? So differentiator comes in something else, maybe for algorithm-driven pricing. If most of your industry is not adopting algorithm-driven pricing right now, right? So on and so forth, right? So depending on what your industry is and what your particular business strategies, you have to choose differentiator use cases and just have to pursue other business cases just because you have to survive in the industry. So that's where I see world moving. What it means is that you can't go and sell to the CEOs in them telling, okay, go AI and you will have competitive advantage. No, it's about what within AI will give you the competitive advantage. So industry is maturing.
Thanks, Shini. So basically, my takeaway is that today, companies don't look at analytics or the art of taking decisions based on data as something which is aspirational. This is something that they have already adapted, and this is not no more an aspirational game. They are living and breathing that right now.
That's correct.
Great. Now, if you look at with the advent of technology, with the mindset becoming, that we have to use data to take decisions. Now, customer is the king. Now, every company is today wanting to make sure that they are giving that preferential treatment to every customer, right? So, gone are those days when one size fit all kind of strategy would have worked. So people are moving towards identifying each and every customer's need, right? So can you spend some time talking about that? What kind of trends you are seeing, and what kind of companies are actually going at depth to identify each and every customer's demand? So can you shed some light on the same?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually a fantastic question, right? So what used to happen in the past was that, so I have a bunch of customer and I have a product. So I just give out the product to the customer. Whoever needs that product comes and takes, right? So simple and straightforward, right? But as the industry is maturing today, as well as the fact that we know so much about the customer thanks to all the analytics, we understand the customer really, really well, irrespective of whether B2B context or B2C context, right? So one of the major differentiators is about really understanding the customer and catering to the customer's needs. And I'll tell you what I mean, right? So maybe I'll just share my screen here. Right. So if you look at this, right? So what do you feel? Right? So this is a typical apparel showroom, high-end apparel showroom that does all their suits and stuff, right? So when you walk into the room, you tell exactly what you want. Okay, I'm looking for like a light colored, suit, and then fit for my size is say 34, right, etc., etc. The guy comes and gives you the right suit based on what you ask, right? So you ask for something and you get it, right? This is what is personalization, right? And personalization is quite natural to human beings. Ever since commerce has existed, personalization has existed, right? But that's not what we are talking about in the context of AI. Okay. So in the context of AI, what we are talking about is what we call as hyper-personalization. So hyper-personalization is not about customer knowing what she wants and coming to the store and asking for it, right? That can be easily done. You don't need any analytics for it, right? Hyper-personalization is about 2, 3 steps, 4 steps beyond it, which is basically me as a vendor, right? Of course, I know what you want because you might have asked for it or you might have bought similar things in the past. But I also know why you want what you want, all right? and I can cater to your deeper needs of why you want something rather than just the direct ask us what you want something. Right? Let me just give one example that you might be quite familiar with. Right? So Netflix suggests a bunch of things for you. Right? When you log into Netflix, based on what it thinks is the right kind of TV shows and movies for you, it will.
Can I interject? Sorry for a moment. I think your screen is not shared. If you can, share your PPT, please.
Yes, I'm sharing my PPT. If the technical team can just make sure that my screen is getting shown.
Uh, okay, let me quickly check with Sarbin. Sarbin, is the screen shared now? You can type in if you want.
Mr. Sri, if you can hear me, you should share your PPT screen, not this
Yeah, I
screen.
have shared my PPT screen.
No, currently I can see your stream where restream screen is visible.
Okay. Let me just share the PPT screen once more. Right. Any hope here?
Yeah, I think I can. Sarbin, is this sorted now?
Yes, it is sorted. Yes, it.
Great, great, great. Yeah. So this is what we were talking about, right? So Netflix has always been recommending bunch of things for you, right? Based on its understanding of what you might like. It will show you either the TV shows or the video or the movies or whatever, right? But that the story doesn't stop there, right? That would have been straightforward and anybody else can actually emulate that, right? But what Netflix does is something a lot more interesting, right? So Netflix, based on what you have watched in the past, it has done a bunch of analysis to figure out to why you like what you like. Okay, and the thumbnails, for example, that it shows here, I know will be based on why you like something, right? So based on all you have watched in the past, if it knows that you like, for example, children adventure, it will show you a different set of timelines here of Stranger Things. As against if it knows that you like horror movies, it will show you different thumbnails for the same Stranger Things, right? So on and so forth, right? So it has a deep understanding of why you like what you like, so that it can customize its recommendations accordingly for you. Now, of course, Netflix has been doing this for a while, and there's nothing new about it, right? But the point of the matter is that, right, as becoming the mainstream, right, not only Netflix and the and entertainment industry, but pretty much every industry, and definitely in the e-commerce space, but beyond, have been adopting this way of doing things, which is getting a deep understanding of the customer in terms of why she does something or he does something, and then using that to actually attract the end customer, right? Let me just give an example of let's say a home implement retailer in the US. Okay, so these guys, right, based on what you have bought in the past, right, they have a very good understanding of how affluent you are, how big is the home size, right? Do you live in a 2,400 square foot apartment versus do you live in a 800 square foot apartment? How big is your family sizes and so on and so forth, right? Now, based on that, right, if it is recommending a dining table for you, if you're a large family, for a 4 people family with with a 4,400 square foot apartment, for example, it's like a large dining table like this, kept in a quite a high end kitchen setting, right? Whereas if it knows that you are you're a single guy living in a 800 square foot studio, right, now it will show something very different, based on its understanding of you, right? So based on everything that you have done in the past, plus your social media handles that if you have followed them and so on and so forth, it has a very good understanding of you, right? Now it goes to the extent where suppose it knows that you like blue things, right, because you have bought a blue sofa and a blue whatnot, right, from them in the past, right? Right, and also it knows that you have bought a blue paint from them 1 year ago, right? Now it has a very good idea that okay, maybe your wall is blue, right, and then it shows that new dining table, offers that new dining table in the setting of this blue sofa and the blue background of the wall, right? It goes to such extent, and based on all this, right, they saw anywhere between 3 to 7% lift in their revenues, right, just by recommending the right things to the right audience by hyper personalization, right? So that's what we are talking about. So not only catering to what the customer is explicitly asking for, but having a deep understanding of deeper inclinations, as well as aspirations of the customer and why she does what she does, so that it can recommend the right set of things for you, right? So that is what we are seeing as a major trend, being helped by AI, in the world of commerce.
This is wonderful. Actually, many of us don't even realize that we are consuming products and services of various companies which are using artificial intelligence to drive their businesses, right? And these are some of the examples that you showcased where, without us realizing, we are consuming those products and services. So that's a wonderful insight, Srini. Thanks for sharing those. Not taking it to next question. So now, today if we see, machines are getting smarter, and machines are actually taking a lot of load from humans and doing their jobs, right? So the way customers or the way humans interact with machines has been changing, right, over a period of time. So can you spend some time talking about how do you see this kind of change evolving? How do you think the nature of interaction with machines is changing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would say, machines are becoming more human in the way they interact with us, and they expect us to interact, with them, right? So it's more of a, quote unquote conversational relationship where I can just, talk to a machine, rather than type lines and lines of code that we used to do when we were kids, right? So that is the level at which machines are evolving right now, right? So, for example, when you logged in into your net banking site last time, right? Didn't you see that chatbot saying, hi, hi Ranak, how are you doing today? How can I help you? Right? So that's becoming like the taken for granted thing, right? So, and also most of the e-commerce sites today offer those kind of conversational things where you really don't have to click and search and go through many levels, but you can just ask something, either type in like a very very English question, or even talk to the machine, to Alexa or whatever, so that it can give you that kind of human like experience. And eventually it is going to that level where you can't even differentiate whether it's a human being or a algorithm sitting in the background, right?
Hmm.
And that's we're talking that B2C context, right? But that's coming into the B2B realm as well, right? So you have all these reports in the organizations, right? From HR reports to manufacturing reports to whatnot, financial reports to whatnot, right? So previously, if you just 2-3 years ago, if you go, those reports had either huge Excel sheets where you had to filter out a lot of things, or they were on Tableau and ClickView and all those softwares where you need to know the software, and there is a lot of cost to installing that software, right? And then you had to go 5 levels of click before you really find what you want, right? Today the entire paradigm is shifting, right? So most of the reporting in the organizations today, at least the advanced organizations, you just ask an English question, right, and you get an answer, right? And you have a follow-up question, you get you ask an English question, it will give you the right kind of graph to support that, right? Now, of course, you can download it and schedule it to come every Monday morning or whatever. The entire reporting or paradigm in the organization is shifting from the traditional static, Tableau and ClickView kind of reporting to a lot more dynamic kind of reporting where you ask a question, you get an answer.
Hmm.
And of course, you already know, you can do Google search through your Alexa and all that kind of things, and you can ask for weather through your Alexa, and it will give you, the kind weather report or whatever that you want. It's pretty straightforward. But the more interesting twist to the tale is that this machine surveying is not so smart that not only they can converse with you like a human being, but also it can cater to your emotional needs, become your friend, have contextual talk with you guys, and even sense sarcasm, okay, and reply back sarcastically, right? So there is this fantastic chatbot. So this was just an example that I was doing, but yes. So there is this fantastic chatbot called Mitsuko. Okay, if you go to PandoraBot's site, right, Mitsuko is probably the world's most evolved chatbot today. Don't go to it right now because you will get you'll get addicted to it. We'll complete this and then go there, right? So Mitsuko is so advanced. You just say hi and then it will continue the conversation with you. It doesn't like when you give like one line replies or one word reply, because it cannot continue the conversation. So it will give you back, right? Or if you make a sarcastic comment, it will give it back to you sarcastically. Right, and make sure that you get back on track, right? So on and so forth. So it's extremely hard in case of Mitsuko, unless you know that you're talking to Mitsuko. No, it's extremely hard to figure out that it's not a human being on the other side. There are very few places where it actually falters, right? So that is what is happening with respect to human and AI interaction today, becoming very, very human-like, normal English language, either typed in or spoken English language, and it can understand what you want, and it can respond back to you in that context and in that tone. That's where we are headed. And again, this is going across industry. It's not just net banking or it's not just e-commerce. It's going across the industry. This is spreading. So this is one of the must-have things for most companies in the future.
Right. And there's one question. There are a lot of questions, but I chanced upon one question which mentioned that I'm from fashion industry. How can I use AI to give a better experience to my customer? Right now, building on that question, and then maybe you can touch upon that question when you answer the overall question that I'm going to ask. If you look at the way basically the economies are evolving, right? It's no more about just having a good product today, right? I mean, that's a given that businesses will have good products, but it will take something else for them to succeed in the market, for companies to succeed in the market. So how do you see this economies are evolving, and what do you see is the X factor that companies should focus on to have that customer that have so that they have that edge over the customer? And then, maybe if you can link it to this question that was asked, how AI can be used in the fashion industry to give better experience to the customer.
Absolutely. No, that's actually a fantastic question, and it has many dimensions to it. Let's take it one at a time. First things first. So let's talk about how this entire thing evolved into giving a better customer experience, right? And why that is the focus of the day today. Right? So Ronak, as you already talked about, right? So let's look at the why of it. Like if you just wind back to the history of the industry itself, like wind back like 50, 60 years ago when the World War just got over and the industry just started booming, right? Just having a product was the differentiator. No, I have a nice, beautiful soap using which you can actually wash your clothes, whereas you don't have a soap, right? You are a normal organization. So, I do better than you, right? As simple as that. Just having a product as a differentiator because there weren't enough products out there. That will make life, simpler for people, right? But then what happened? Everybody started having good products, right? So Unilever has a product, or Procter & Gamble also creates a similar product. So there is no differentiator, right? Then what it evolved to was, okay, can I reach more people than you? So I have access to say 15 markets, you have access to only 5 markets. So I do better than you because I have access to the market population of those 15 markets. So distribution, became the biggest differentiator. So companies started to figure out how can I reach more and more markets and more people and be on the shelf of more and more stores, so that I can get that differentiator and I can do more sales. But eventually, every company figured out how to make good distribution. There was a distribution as an industry itself is evolved. Where there are big distributors, small distributors, and whatnot. Right now, once everybody started reaching the audience, now okay, what next? Right. That's when the entire concept of marketing and branding began. Where I have a soap and you have a soap, right? But I package my soap in a particular way and then call it a Sunlight, whereas yours is just called a soap. Right now, when the customer goes to the shop floor, shelf, right, he sees that okay, Sunlight, and she can associate itself with it. There is a brand recall and brand recognition. Okay, I get better sales as compared to somebody who just calls it a soap. Right. So the entire world of branding began from here, and as you see, branding has only grown from then on. Right. But eventually, what happened? People started figuring out how to do good branding and how to get a good recall, in the customer's mind, right? So everybody has started having branding, and there is no more differentiator, right? Then the entire world of offshoring, mass production and all came, where saving cost, right, through either sending off manufacturing to China or doing mass production within the US or whatever it is, right? That became like the competitive differentiator. Not that it gives you more revenue, but it saves you a lot of cost, from manual production, and that started becoming a differentiator. Right? But eventually, as you know, today, everybody is doing mass production. Every production thing is automated, right? What is today's differentiator, right? And when you look at it from a consumer perspective, customer perspective, what is the differentiator, right? That's where we are talking about, customer experience taking the front seat, right? And today, because there is so much data about the customer, we know her so well. As we just talked about, we also know why she buys something and not just what she buys. right? And also, what she might buy, her affordability, and so on and so forth. So we can actually afford to give a one-on-one, really, really good customer experience, right? And that is becoming the biggest differentiator, right, of our organizations to get a competitive advantage, right? So that's where we are coming from, right? So what is today's differentiator? That is customer experience, right? Now, how are various industries, getting that customer experience really depends on that industry, right? So now we can take the fashion example because you asked for, fashion, Raunak, right? So let me show you something very, very interesting. Okay, this is Sephora. Sephora, as you know, is a very, very leading brand in the women's fashion, right? Now they have put up these things called AI mirrors. Okay, this AI mirror is not a real mirror itself, but it's a program running in the background where instead of the customer actually trying out something physically, which is costly for you and costly for her, right? She can try out virtually, right? So they have put these mirrors in most of the Macy's stores and bunch of other stores, right? So see what she's trying out a lot of these eye coloring. I don't know what they call it, some eye coloring thing, right? Or she could have as well done lipstick or other things on that, right? She tries out different colors and sees how she actually looks. It's not a model there, it's actually a human being, right? A customer actually who's seeing how she looks no, in this one, rather than looking at how a model will look with that particular color. Now, this is where the entire world of fashion is headed, and this extends to apparel as well. You can try out particular dresses virtually. You can try out shoes virtually, right? So the world of augmented reality and virtual reality has taken the world of e-commerce to such an extent, and especially fashion to such an extent. Of course, you know that Nike stores also have this kind of things where you can virtually try out the Nike shoes and see how you look when you are wearing that particular shoes, right? And so forth. So this is just one example, right? And augmented reality has also helped, not just a customer experience, but also a customer recall, and branding, if you will. I will show you on the video of Unilever. Okay, so let me just show the video and then talk through it. I hope you can hear the audio.
The audio is not coming. Sarbin, can you look into it? You'll have to switch on the audio, Srini.
My audio is switched on.
Okay, maybe then you'll have to explain like what's happening here so that.
Yeah. Great. I guess you weren't able to hear the audio, right? Okay. So what's happening here is, so this is an app called Snatch that Unilever, released. Okay. So as you can see here, they are virtual augmented reality apps, right? Where where everything. So once you download that app and you are walking on the road, everything else you see on the app is real, real street and the buildings and all. Except for this, one parcel that will be there, and it's a competition to capture those parcels and have it for 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever. Okay. Now, if you made, and others can snatch that parcel from you if they find it. Okay, so you have to protect that parcel. Right? So, but for that parcel, virtual parcel, everything else is real. It shows the real street that you are walking on, real buildings that is around you, etc. Now, once you protect that parcel for virtually for about 6 hours or whatever, then the parcel becomes yours, right?
Okay.
And think of what is there in the parcel. It's a Unilever product, right? So you are getting hooked onto a game. It's a virtual reality, augmented reality game where you are actually looking at artificial parcels in a real street as you are walking, and you are grabbing it from the other person who is walking in front of you, and so on and so forth, right? And then getting hooked onto this game, and then getting real parcels if you win the game. All right, and then but if you open the parcel, it will be Unilever product. So it's a way to get customers hooked on to your products without them realizing that they're hooking on to Unilever products. Right? Fantastic way to create a brand experience and the brand recall in the audience.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. This is an interesting concept. I think they banged on the popularity of that game, Pokemon, or whatever that game was
Yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they built on this to create or promote their own brand. Okay, that seems interesting. So I'll take a couple of questions that has come from our users on LinkedIn and YouTube. So there are different kind of questions, but I like to just combine it into one. So basically, learners are asking the usage of artificial intelligence in the area of pharmaceuticals, in the area of medical science, in the area of fashion, in the area of insurance, banking, right? So I think there are a lot many questions which are coming from their individual background, right? So Srini, if you can just very broadly paint a picture, is there any particular industry where the usage of AI is more vis-a-vis any other industry, or do you feel that the use and adoption of AI uh, ac- uh, is prevalent across all industries? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? If you take again wind back about 5 years, 7 years, or even 10 years, right? So definitely there were industries that were ahead of others, right? And in AI adoption, as how they got competitive advantage, right? But if you look at it today, there is pretty much no industry. I can claim with good amount of confidence that there's pretty much no industry out there, right, that can survive without no AI and analytics, right? So it's about what are the kinds of use cases that each of industry that might be different, and also which are the more mature functions versus other functions that still have to mature. That might be a differentiator. But if you look at the industry itself, there is absolutely no industry where AI, is not being used either to gain efficiency or to gain more customers or whatever it is, right? In fact, just half an hour ago, I got off a call from a solar energy startup. Okay, so they are, they are a AI company that caters to all these solar energy plants, right, to make it more efficient, right? So who would have thought solar energy itself, just 2 years ago was in a very nascent stage in India, although today it's growing a lot, right? But who would have thought there'll be AI catering to solar energy plants, right, in 2020, right? So that's where the world is headed. Now think of any particular industry, I can pretty much bet that there is no industry without doing AI. And as I told you, the industry is maturing right now. It's not about just having AI to gain competitive advantage, but it's more about, okay, I am doing AI, you're doing AI just to survive. No, otherwise I can't even survive. But which are the use cases that I pursue so that gives me a competitive advantage?
Right. So, in interest of time, we will not take questions which are specific to a particular industry, because if we start, explaining the usage of AI in different industries, I think even like 5-10 hours won't suffice, right? So, a request from our learner is to actually do some research on their own. To know more about the use cases of AI in their own industry. But
And we can have focus sessions on each industry as well.
yes, yes. But as Srini said, the use of AI is prevalent across all industry. Some industry might be more mature as compared to other industry with respect to adopting use cases of AI, artificial intelligence. But sooner or later, I'm sure that the playing field is going to be leveled in no time. Um, Now, this brings me to a next connected question, Srini. And some of the learners are, talking about they either they are freshers or they have some experience in some domain. Now they want to get into the field of AI and data science, right? So how they should be actually getting into the same, like how they should plan this transition, how they should get into this field.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic question, actually. Right. One of the things, of course, you should know you should know the basics of your data science and analytics and stuff like that, right? Which happens through some of the good courses, for example, that a Great Learning might be offering, or you can do courses on all the MOOC platforms and so on and so forth, right? So that's the bare minimum basic knowledge that you can pretty much get from anywhere. Okay. So, but let's go a few steps beyond that, right? So if you want to get into this field, right? So first of all, what is happening today is that the world of the world of product development and product design is is getting completely transformed, right? into a what I call as an integrated product design world. Right. If you just go to the good that I had the slide with me here, right? So initially, a few years ago, just 2 years ago, for example, if you just know a few algorithms, you know your regression, you know your classification, and all that things. Okay, great, you're a data scientist, right? But today, that's not going to happen. Right? So today, you have the world of automation, the world of robotics, the world of IoT, 3D printing, and all the all the peripheral technologies around it, and of course, AR, VR, and all, right? All that getting integrated into one field, right? So what it means is that products have all of these aspects, at least many of these aspects integrated into the product design. Now, what it means from a talent perspective, if you want to go into this field, is you have to be what we call as like a quote unquote full stack data scientist. Right now, full stack data scientist is one who knows something, one of these things really well, but has at least a base understanding of everything else, so that you can converse very well in a cross-functional environment, right? And actually end up developing a product, right? That is usable into the end user, right? So that means that you not only need to know your data science bit, but you need to have of course one of the domains you should know very well. You should know how to create your data pipelines, right? Or at least how to use the data pipelines and the APIs, right? And you should know how your APIs that you develop out of your data science models will integrate into the bigger product, right? So on and so forth, right? And of course, you should know the concepts of agile way of doing things and so on and so forth, so that eventually you can work in that development environment. Right. So all these things come together, right? That's one set of things. And the second set of things is the entire data engineering aspect, right? From the AWS or whatever stack, Azure or whatever stack it is, and how does your product integrate there, and how does the development environment integrate there, and so on and so forth, right? So we're talking about a full stack data scientist, who knows one thing really well, and has peripheral knowledge of everything else that comes around it in order to develop that integrated product. I don't know if it was a long answer to a short question, but what I mean to say is that you should know many different fields, plus your problem solving and communication and agile way of doing things, before you can call yourself a data scientist. That can succeed in the real world.
Right. And so there are many questions around that. I'm new to this field, so how should I get started? Now, there are should I be knowing all of this at once that you just spoke about a while ago in the screen, having exposure to multiple disciplines, or is it okay? I mean, I will still be relevant if I just know something a very little bit of it, and then maybe gradually over a period of time I gain knowledge of all the things that you mentioned. How should actually uh, uh, you know uh, people who are enthusiastic about it should approach this particular upskilling journey?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So my suggestion is that you should start somewhere, right? So if I were you, I would start taking a course, right? Theoretical course, right? And then start off some way, shape or form, start off a project, right? Ideally, like real industry project that your organization might be able to get you. For example, if you're doing a course with great learning, right, you might you might be able to get an industry project from great learning as a part of your internship or something like that, right? If not, you can join a company as a trainee, right, or a intern, right, and actually start getting your hands dirty, and that's where you learn the rest of the things. It's theoretically not possible. For example, for a doctor, right, it's theoretically not possible to become a heart specialist and brain specialist and gastroenterologist and whatnot, right? It's not possible, right? But he'll be, so just start somewhere and develop one theoretical thing where you can actually contribute to the team, and rest of the things you will learn on the job. Only thing I am trying to say is that you should be proactive in learning the other things, otherwise you will be left behind, right? Actually, I had a thing here where I had listed a bunch of different skill sets that are
Sure.
today, right? So, for example, we're talking about algorithms and mathematics. That is pure play data science based, that you learn somewhere. We're talking about all the ML engineering, from creating the data pipelines to creating the APIs to actually do the work and application development.
So, Srini, if you're sharing the screen, it's not visible.
Okay, I'm actually sharing the screen. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, yeah, I think it's all right. All right, yeah. Is it visible now?
It was, yes.
Yeah, great. Right. So we are talking about all the data science stuff, right? Which is probably the best place for you to start. So I would say start here because there are so many courses available out there, right? And also from a theory perspective, it's easier to grasp these things as compared to then you need to know ML engineering, data engineering, UI UX, very very important, right? And application development, including agile way of doing things, and how the front end works with the middle layer and the back end layer, etc. Right? And of course, pure play problem solving skills, right? So all these things, and of course, last but not the least, domain awareness of at least one domain. You should know really, really well. So these are the things that you would eventually need to have. So if I were you, I would probably start either on the data science side, which is your algorithms and math that I have listed here, or data engineering side of things, right? One of these two, because that's the easiest to get into, and then you can pick up the other pieces of the puzzle, over a period of say 3 years or so, right? Or able to actually be a part of a real project.
Got it. Yeah, let me look for other questions.
Yeah.
I can hear echo. If you can turn that off, please. Yeah, thank you.
Another thing I wanted to probably touch upon is the fact that today, right? So the world is that a word of data science talent is getting quite polarized. Okay, if you will, right? Now, what it means, is that the person who actually develops those base algorithms, if you will, and the person who uses those algorithms in a business context are two different people. It's very very productized. So, for example, if I am a business analyst or a data scientist in an organization, I will not build everything from scratch. Okay, I will use the pieces that are already there, that's already available in the market, different products, and then put them all together in a certain way and just do the bare minimum coding that is required beyond that in order to create my solution, right? Now, let me take the example of this that we were just talking about, right? Now, of course, in order to make this recommendation happen to the end user, there are some basic pieces of the puzzle, which is basically figuring out that now this particular sofa is blue in color and it's probably a velvet upholstery as against like a wooden upholstery and so on and so forth, and to figure out that this wall is blue in color and so on and so forth, and this this dining table is 4-seater and it is wooden, so on, right? So to figure out all these tags, right, and actually make these tags, right? So there are algorithms available. So if I'm a data scientist in this particular home improvement retailer, I would not do any of those things from scratch, right? I will use already ready-made algorithms and products that are available in the market. Where I will add in is the fact that, okay, for this particular customer X, she has to get a blue, blue wall in front of which there is a nice, beautiful blue sofa and wooden 4-seater dining table as a recommendation, right? In order to come up with that right recommendation for the right user, right, is where I will build that layer. But I will not figure out how to figure out that this is actually a blue sofa that somebody else is doing, right, for me, right? So world is getting more and more productized, where there is the domain agnostic products are sitting in the background, and the right business analyst will pick those pieces of the puzzle and actually build the solution for the end customer. So this is getting very quite polarized in terms of how the world of data science is working today. Try to build everything from scratch.
Right. So, one of the questions was, I am not from technology background, right? I don't have exposure to that. So, will I be able to cope up with this field if I were to get into this, right? So, I'll. So, what's your take on this, Srini? Like, people not from a computer background, how they should approach getting into the field of data science or artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So I think that's where this productization bit actually plays out very very well, right? So today, given that you don't have to really develop everything from scratch, right? So there are the people who develop the AI products or engines, if you will, and there are people who put them all together in the context of a domain, right? Due to which, right, while you definitely need to have some basic knowledge that you will need to develop, that all these courses can provide you, but not being from a computer science background is no more a constraint, to get into this world, right? So it's more about understanding the domain and being able to solve problems from scratch. Of course, you need to have a little bit of literacy of programming, which you can learn, right? You don't have to do it from the you don't have done it from the college already. You can do it now as well, right? So, but for that, what is required is the real domain knowledge, right, and problem solving skills. So let me just give actually an example, right, that will make it real for you. Right. So, have you heard of this company called Nikon? Right. So Nikon is, for the longest time been the leader in this industry. They have produced like, really, really good cameras, right? That are definitely benchmark in the industry. So what happened was that Nikon provided came up with a new technology. Okay, this after the world of AI grew so much and all, they wanted to use AI and make the better customer experience and all that. So they came up with a new technology, right? The technology is that, right? Suppose you're the subject and I'm taking your picture, right? Now when I take your picture, suppose you are closing your eyes. Okay, when I take your picture, it will actually wait for you to open your eyes, before it actually clicks. Okay, so fantastic technology by any standards and very, very useful for the end customer, no doubt, right? So a lot of people you see, people have closed eyes in important pictures, right? You don't want that, right? So this camera will actually wait for you to open your eyes before it actually clicks and captures the picture, right? It all worked very, very well except for one problem, right? The problem was that if there is a Korean subject standing on the other side, it never clicks. Okay, so what's happening here, right? So because of this, right? So it's not about the technology, it's not about anything else, right? It is about really understanding the domain of, okay, who all might be my users and what are all the scenarios in which I need to test this product or also train the model before it actually goes out into the product and gets productionalized and customers buy it. Right now, clearly they had forgotten to include one group of users, right, into their testing data set, right? I mean development data set, right? So these are the things that will happen, due to which and who is developing this algorithm that will figure out right, that the person is closing the eyes or open eyes. It's a basic image analytics algorithm, right? So that doesn't need any kind of coding or technical expertise, etc. And there is somebody else who is putting all these things together in the context of a camera, where you actually figure out that the person is closing the eyes in this particular context, right? And actually making sure that the camera waits till it clicks, right? There's a different person doing it. That person doesn't need to do any programming. It's just basic integration of that algorithm that's in the background, with this one, right? So very, very basic programming is required, but it's not really a technology challenge. Now, what it requires is problem-solving ability and ability to think from scratch and from first principles in terms of, okay, what all do I need to train my data set on? And are there any biases in my data set, right? And also in terms of coming up with test scenarios that, okay, what all do I need to test on so that it doesn't fail in real world, right? So that's what we are talking about. So short answer to your long question, yes, no. Do I need to have a little bit of programming knowledge? Yes. But that does mean that, you have to come from a computer science background? Absolutely not. You can pick up the basic programming skills, at any age from whichever background you are, and get into this field.
Right. And Shri, one question. So when we typically talk about artificial intelligence, right, we think of automated self-driving cars. We think of use cases like recommendations on Netflix or YouTube. But do you see artificial intelligence getting into area where creativity is required, like painting or other softer skills? Do you see if artificial intelligence can play a role there?
No, that's a fantastic question. Like, let me actually show you something instead of talking. Okay. So, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Screen share audio.
Yeah.
So this is a music that is pure created by a program. Okay, no person has created this music. So it has learned from various different people, right, who have actually created music and saw what are the right tones, what are the right tones that appeal to people, and what order should those tones go, and so on and so forth, right? And actually develop this music from scratch without anybody helping it, right? Of course, whoever writes this program has to have domain knowledge of music, and it cannot be somebody like me, But at the end of the day, this music itself is created by, by the program. Similarly, if you go to this site called booksby.ai, right? You find a bunch of books that are purely created by an AI algorithm. Okay, so AI is the author. There is nobody helping it. It reads a bunch of different books within a particular genre, and sees what people are liking, what people are not liking based on some of the Amazon reviews and all that, and then it creates its own story. Okay, of course it's not perfect. If you go through it, you will realize that there are some grammatical mistakes and all that, but doesn't really matter. It takes just a few more months of training the algorithm before it gets perfected, right? But the point of the matter is that AI is able to create new novels, and the novel itself makes perfect sense. Okay, it's a nice novel that starts somewhere, go through the ups and downs of the journey of the protagonist, and eventually has a nice beautiful climax, and ends in a way that is either a happy ending or a sad ending, right? So on and so forth. It's a very beautiful flow of the story. Of some mistakes are there which can be overcome with a little more of training. But the entire books.by.ai site has bunch of books written by AI algorithm, right? So definitely, so it's not just about artificial intelligence, but quote unquote artificial creativity as well, where AI is able to create music, it's able to create books, and of course now we know that it can create paintings as well, right? So on and so forth. That's where the world is headed, where it can pretty much in creative endeavors it can compete with human beings.
Right. Thanks, Shini. This is wonderful. Actually, I think it answers questions to one of the questions I saw on the chat box was, what is the use case of artificial intelligence in the movie industry, right? So I think we just saw some glimpse of how this can be used in the entertainment industry as well.
And on that note, no, that's a very good question, right? So if you go to these, Z Entertainment and all those guys, Star and all those guys, right? So they produce these, shows, and now they produce the movies as well and all that, no? So they do a lot of really interesting analytics. Okay, in terms of what kind of stories are working well with the audience, and which segment of audience. They do a lot of micro segmentation, right? And what kind of stories are working well with audience, what kind of stories are not, right? And what kind of twist to the tail, what kind of characters get more audience, and I guess what kind of characters, so on and so on and so forth, right? And they have very interesting ways of actually doing those taggings, right? So once you do all the tagging, for example, it's quite easy to actually do analytics and figure out, okay, which type of movie is doing well and which type of movie is not doing well, right? But how do you tag them, right? They tag it by every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, right? And for every scene, they tag telling, okay, this tag, this scene is very fast moving scene with a horror twist to that particular tale, right? And the hero who is like, really good, fighting kind of a guy with well built up muscles, actually doing some, hi-fi dialogue and all that, right? How do you tag that? First of all, right? There's a lot of algorithms and very interesting math going behind that. And once they tag, they figure out what's working well, but what's not working well, so that they can figure out what to produce next.
Right.
So a very interesting endeavor.
Yeah. Thanks, Shini. I think we'll take a last few questions. So, one question that has come up is AI going to replace humans in terms of jobs? And kind of complementary question to this is that is AI overstated?
Yeah, both are good questions, right? So is the AI going to replace human beings in jobs? In certain jobs, yes, absolutely. So there is even I have done projects where some mundane work that was just repetitive every single day, they have to come and fill up that bill of material and go back home in the evening. Right now, we replace that with a bot, and then it can do all those 200 bill of materials that used to fill. It can do it in the matter of minutes, whereas that guy used to take like a full day to do that. Right. So is these particular jobs that are mundane, going to go out because of AI and AI-driven automation? Absolutely yes, right? But at the end of the day, are there going to be lesser jobs for human beings? Absolutely not, right? Net, there are going to be only more and more jobs, right? But only the nature of those jobs are going to change, because you're not required to do this mundane, just filling up the things, anymore. But just an example, right? So just 5 years ago, all of us used to go to that, stupid center, and stand in the line to fill the electricity bill and the telephone bill, right? And that one guy was just paid to collect those bills. Right? Now, today, none of us do that. We just pay all these things online, right? Now, that guy is not required anymore, right? But is somebody else required to build those programs, to build, and the domain knowledge required to make sure that something, those things are built well? Absolutely, yes. So net, if you see that last 200 years of the industry, whenever a major disruption in terms of automation or technology has come, right, the nature of jobs required out of human beings has changed. But the industry itself has become bigger and bigger, because all the money that you are going to save because of the automation is going to be reinvested in back into business, right? So at the end of the day, more people are going to get more and more and better jobs.
Right. So my takeaway from this is that it's killing certain kind of jobs and it's creating different type of jobs.
Yes,
But net we are going to be job positive and not job negative.
absolutely, no doubt about that.
Got it. Okay. And I know that we are almost running towards the end of the session. We have only a few minutes left, so I'm going to pick just one last question. When Shini, you have been consulting Fortune 500 companies, right? From that perspective, do you see any change happening in the Indian ecosystem? Do you see that the landscape in the Indian context is changing, and the use cases of AI is also as prevalent as it is in India as compared to other developed economies? So how do you see India adapting to that change?
Yeah, no, that's actually a very, very good question, right? Now, if I don't want to just particularly address India itself, we can actually address the entire APAC region.
Mm.
So, if you look at it from a very outside in perspective, from a very traditional knowledge, right? It is the Western and the so-called quote unquote developed economies that generally have more money to spare, right, for all this kind of flunky things as compared to developing world. That's what you would expect. That West is far ahead of the APAC or the developing economies when it comes to AI. But surprisingly, what happened, right? That didn't turn out to be the case, right? So if you look at some of my customers in India, in Thailand, Malaysia, and of course Japan, and then China, and so on, right? So a lot of the things that we are doing, in this region across the industry is far more advanced as compared to some of the, for example, European so-called developed economies, right? So what's happening is like this. Okay, we are also quite intrigued as to why this is the case. So what's happening is like this. So one is that the developed economies have gone through their full cycle of maturity and stuff like that. Right now, they are doing things a particular way. Now they need to adopt to the new way of thinking. That requires change management. Okay. Whereas in the developing world, what happened was, because the world was not yet developed to that extent, while adopting automation itself, while adopting industrialization at scale, while adopting computerization, they were able to just go through the curve very, very fast, or maybe even skip the curve in many places, and directly adopt data driven way of doing things, because they weren't doing anything, right? It's very easy to adopt data driven way of doing things. That's why they have become the so-called digital natives, as compared to the Western world, where they had gone through the industrialization cycle, right? And due to which now it's a change management for them. But for these companies, there is no change management. It's the first time they are doing anything digital. Why don't I just do the data driven way of doing things in the first place? So that's how it became faster for China and India, especially, and as well as smaller economies like Malaysia, Thailand, so on, to adopt this. So are the use cases in par? Absolutely, right. And second thing driving it is that if the developers are all in this market, the AI developers are all in this market, which they can get it much more cheaper as compared to the Western economies. That's another thing that's playing there. So if in many cases, it's not even par, it's a few steps ahead of the Western world in terms of the quality of the use cases.
All right. Thanks, Srini, for sharing time and your insights with our learners. And again, once again, on behalf of Great Learning and its community, I thank you for being here and spending time with them. And before we sign off, do you have any last piece of advice for all the enthusiasts who want to basically absorb the knowledge and get into this field?
Yeah, so no, first of all, thanks a lot for the great audience, Raunak. So what I would say is that there is going to be no industry and no function in the future. When I say future, I'm talking like quite immediate future, right? That is going to be being driven without AI and analytics. Okay, so either you will be the producer of analytics or you will be the user of analytics, one of the two. Right? So what I would urge everybody is, irrespective of your background, right, make sure that you have at least basic quote literacy of AI and analytics, so that you can be relevant in the future world. Right? It doesn't mean that everybody has to become a data scientist, not really, but just make sure that you have some basic knowledge of AI and analytics, so that you can converse in an educated fashion and you're relevant to your next employer. As simple as that. With that, I want to thanks a lot for all the audience and Raunak for this great session.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Srini. Thanks for joining us. For our learners, stay safe and hope you do wonderful things in your